Hey everyone, welcome. If you're looking to cut straight through the noise, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're taking a truly expansive and honestly kind of chaotic topic and transforming it into a structured, fascinating narrative. We're going to explore the world of weed, distilling 50 wild facts covering history, science, and culture into one clear explainer. Whether you're curious about the actual neurobiology of a high or the sheer global economics of a billion-dollar industry, well, we're going to break the whole shebang down for you.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll hit roots and origin stories, presidents and pop culture, the science of the high, medical miracles and risks, and finally, the wild world of weed.
Section 1, Roots and Origin Stories. We are tracing a 10,000-year history here. You know, humanity's relationship with cannabis is actually one of the oldest in the world. Prehistoric Asian cultures relied heavily on hemp for rope, clothes, food, and even spiritual ceremonies. And this brilliantly illustrates the U.S. government's totally paradoxical love-hate timeline with the plant. Sales were restricted in 1906, and then came a ban via the Marijuana Tax Act in 1937, which weirdly enough included hemp. But wait, then World War II hits. Suddenly, the U.S. government is literally churning out propaganda to encourage hemp cultivation. Why? Because they desperately needed cheap, durable rope and canvas for the war effort. Talk about a total 180, right? After the war, bam, banned again in 1970, only for hemp regulations to be revised yet again in 2018. It is a literal regulatory roller coaster. So where do the words we use even come from? Well, let's bust a major myth right off the bat. You might have heard that marijuana comes from a Nahuatl word meaning prisoner. Actually, scratch that. That was a story heavily pushed by anti-drug campaigner Harry J. Anslinger back in the 1930s. The much more likely origin, the Chinese term ma ren hua, which just means hemp flower. And ganja, that comes straight from Sanskrit. It's also wild to think that global leaders have been trying to ban this plant for over 700 years. We're talking everyone from an Arabian emir in the 1300s to Napoleon Bonaparte in the 1800s. Section 2, Presidents and Pop Culture. Moving right along from the White House to Hollywood. Just look at this incredible contrast. George Washington famously grew hemp, writing about it over 90 times in his diaries. Fun fact, Betsy Ross's original American flag, made of hemp. Jump forward to the Carter administration, and you've got country legend Willie Nelson supposedly smoking a joint right on the roof of the White House with the president's son. Then there's Barack Obama, who in his younger days was part of a club called the Choom Gang, allegedly pioneering techniques like roof hits. The grand irony here, of course, is that despite these presidential run-ins, the plant was never legalized federally during any of their terms in office. Okay, let's rapid-fire some pop culture trivia. In 2021, Jaleel White, yes, the guy who played Steve Urkel, launched his very own bespoke weed brand called It's Purple. And get this, reggae legend Bob Marley was famously buried with his guitar, a football, and a bud of chronic. When Tupac passed away, his group, the Outlaws, claimed they rolled his cremains into a joint and smoked him as a final tribute. No way, right? And what about that legendary 420 code? Coined in the 70s by San Rafael high school teens who were hunting for a mythical weed farm. Fast forward to today, and Time magazine reports there are over 1,200 slang terms for cannabis out there. Section 3, the science of the high. Let's look under the hood and see what's actually happening in the brain. It's the ultimate pop culture trope, but I gotta ask you directly, why exactly do you get the munchies? Like, what is the actual biological mechanism making you devour a whole bag of potato chips after consuming cannabis? Well, here is the clear scientific answer. It all comes down to THC. THC stimulates the endocannabinoid receptors in your brain, which are wired directly to centers that regulate hunger and dopamine. But here's the crucial takeaway. This mechanism isn't just an excuse to eat junk food. It's a massive, life-altering medicinal boon. Think about cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy who suffer from severe loss of appetite. This biological reaction can literally get them eating again, completely changing their quality of life. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the neurobiology of how you consume it. Ever wonder why edibles hit you like an absolute freight train hours later while smoking is almost instant? When you smoke or vape, a high dose of delta-9 THC hits your system super fast. But an edible, that takes a totally different metabolic pathway. A huge portion goes straight to your liver first, where it gets converted into a highly potent compound called 11-hydroxy-THC. That liver conversion is exactly why you get that delayed, incredibly intense body high.
synthesizing a few other wild scientific findings here. DEA data from the last 20 years shows weed is fundamentally changing. THC levels are going way up, while CBD, the compound usually linked to health benefits, is dropping. Interestingly, THC also dials down activity in the nucleus accumbens. In plain English, it literally makes you less chemically motivated by external rewards, like money. You can even be allergic to it, like getting hives or anaphylaxis from the pollen or mold. But, and this is absolutely crucial to note, there are 0 recorded deaths from a cannabis overdose. That makes it vastly different from lethal substances like fentanyl, where just a tiny speck can be fatal. Section 4, Medical Miracles and Risks. We absolutely have to objectively look at both the proven healing benefits and the serious health hazards here.
The life-saving potential really is incredible. Take Epidiolex. It's an FDA-approved drug using synthetic cannabinoids to treat rare, life-threatening forms of epilepsy. Back in the 80s and 90s, an activist known as Brownie Mary pioneered cannabis relief for AIDS patients. It even shows promise in managing opioid and alcohol addictions. But, and this is a big but, we have to juxtapose that with the horrifying realities for some users. Chronic use can trigger cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. It's a terrifying condition that causes 48-hour cycles of severe vomiting and abdominal pain. Plus, studies show that if you have genetic markers for schizophrenia, early exposure to cannabis can actively worsen your chances of developing psychotic symptoms.
We also need to talk about the reality of withdrawals. Quitting can definitely cause insomnia, severe mood swings, and chills. And hey, a super important public service announcement, keep your stash far away from your dogs. Dogs are extremely vulnerable to marijuana toxicosis. Those anecdotal home remedies you read online are incredibly dangerous for them, especially if they get into chocolate edibles. Just don't risk it. Section 5, The Wild World of Weed. Let's dive into the crime, cash, and culture. 219 million. That is the estimated number of people worldwide who used cannabis at least once in 2021 alone. That represents roughly 4.3% of the entire global population between the ages of 16 and 64. It really emphasizes the sheer massive scale of the world's most popular illicit drug. And look, where there are people, there's money. $8.5 billion. That is the estimated potential federal tax revenue the U.S. government could be making. To put that into perspective, if fully legalized nationwide, projections show the marijuana market would easily outpace the entire organic food industry. It is a massive cash cow. Because it's still illegal in so many places, smugglers go to insane lengths to move their product. But honestly, they aren't very creative. Seizures have uncovered pot hidden in hundreds of pounds of broccoli, 1,500 pounds stuffed into coconuts, 4,000 pounds disguised as fake limes, $500,000 worth hidden in fake carrots, and even vats of strawberry jam. It's like the criminal underworld relies completely on the produce aisle to run their massive shipments. So, the crucial point is, what exactly are people consuming? If you've ever been confused by the lingo, let's clear it up once and for all. A joint is purely cannabis rolled up in a standard rolling paper. A spliff, that's when you mix cannabis and tobacco together inside that rolling paper. And a blunt is a much larger amount of cannabis wrapped up in a cigar or a tobacco leaf wrap. Now you know. Globally, the landscape is just wildly diverse. In Japan, weed is a massive luxury, costing around $32 a gram. In Ecuador, it's just $1.34. The laws are just as extreme. In Malaysia, planting a single seed can land you in prison for life. Meanwhile, over in Bhutan, it grows wild in the pavement, and they literally feed it to pigs to fatten them up. Oh, and fun fact, the very first illicit e-commerce sale ever, it was in 1971 when MIT and Stanford students used the ARPANET to broker a weed deal. Also, let's quickly bust an internet myth right now. North Korea is absolutely not a relaxed tourist haven for weed. It is strictly classified alongside heroin, and testing that rumor could literally cost you your freedom or worse.
We also have to neutrally acknowledge the darker historical and ecological impacts here. Like in 1977, when the U.S. Coast Guard seized a staggering 54 tons in a single bust. From a policy angle, the sources note that former President Richard Nixon's war on drugs was heavily aimed at disenfranchising specific groups, which fueled racial arrest disparities that persist today. Ecologically, it's pretty grim too. Illegal farming operations in California use rat poisons that are devastating wildlife, like rare spotted owls and fishers. Oh, and in a totally bizarre medical mishap in North Carolina, certain baby soaps were actually triggering false positive marijuana tests in newborns, almost causing a massive panic with social services. Which brings us to our final, kind of wild thought. Deep inside the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, which is designed to survive a literal world-ending cataclysm, sit over 21,500 cannabis seeds from 17 different countries. It raises a pretty fascinating question. How will humanity's oldest cultivated plant continue to shape our history, even in a post-apocalyptic future? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and as always, keep learning and keep asking questions.